Hello and welcome back to my channel, and if you welcome. Today we are talking about a fanfiction called The Dragon Clasp. Details about the fanfiction will be in the description below. This is a story where it tells from different characters, and their side of the story of how they had entered Arthur's inner circle, right? And that's represented by the Dragon Clasp. Because it's not like Arthur ever really shows any favoritism or anything, but you know who he trusts more than others, which is his inner circle. And the only reason they know that is because of the dragon clasp, which isn't this symbol, this really big symbol, as in it's noticeable. It's just a small clasp on their cape, right? In the shape of a dragon. And obviously Gawain, Lancelot, Elaine, Leon, Percival, they all have it. So they're the first people that Arthur goes to. And so the first perspective we get from is Owen, or Owain, because his name is spelled O-W O-W-A-I what? Yeah, O-W-A-I-N. So, and honestly, reading this in my mind, I just flip back and forth between Owen and Owain, so I'm still talking about the same person. But Owen sees this and he, wants to be part of the inner circle. Not only because, he respects Arthur a lot, but, for his own kind of pride to be able to say oh, I'm, or to show off that he's part of the inner circle and part of Arthur's most trusted men. So he starts going the extra mile to kind of prove to Arthur that he's worthy of being in his inner circle. He's the first to the training grounds, the last to leave, and trains till he drops, right? And Arthur has, of course, noticed this, right? But because he gives one of his, he doesn't say anything, but he just nods in approval. So in his mind, Owen's okay, it's only a matter of time, because he's noticed. So it's it's only a matter of time now before he gets that dragon class. But weeks go by, nothing happens. Until a particular day where he's annoyed and really just wants to, it's a bad day, right? Annoyed, just wants it to be over. And then in comes Merlin in himself, and he's teasing him, right? Because he's teasing him about, oh, Arthur's coming, so don't start slacking off now that you have his attention, or you might, don't let Lord Pratface, catch you slouching, right? Very clearly, kind of teasing him, not being serious. He's just messing with him. And Owen is about to say something. In his mind, he's like, who are you to say that about Arthur, and calling him Pratface and everything, and for you to say that, and because he's annoyed. But Leon stops before he just shakes his head down, right? Gets attention, just shakes his head. And Merlin gives him a tonic because he's oh, I noticed that you had a cough for a while now, so here's to make you feel better. And Merlin just hasn't noticed, right? He's just his usual kind of self, right? He hasn't noticed anything. Once Merlin leaves, he's done. This is where Leon looks at Owen and he really takes pity on him, right? Because he's okay, it's I'm telling you this because, we grew up together. I see you as a brother. You tell me what I deny it though. But he's I've seen that you've been eyeing the dragon class. It's but what you don't realize, the key is Merlin, because he's the one who hands these out, not Arthur. That you don't just, he gives a grand thing giving it to you. Just kind of suddenly appears. And Merlin's the one to give them. And, at first he's Merlin's the one, because it's in shock. Because everyone, well, it's yeah, everyone and their grandma knows how fond Arthur is of Merlin. But what they kind of also just overlook or don't really realize is Merlin, above all else, is the one person without question Arthur absolutely trusts. So when he hands out these little dragon clasps, it's a sign to him that he can also trust them without question, right? Doesn't even have to think about it. So just like with Merlin, all right, you're, that, and that's what the inner circle is. I don't have to question your loyalty or anything, your motives. You are trustworthy. Because it's like being vetted by Merlin. And then he goes on to tell him, like, in his opinion, because Gawain says that the dragon class, he kind of thinks represents like the ability to go above and beyond, and he kind of takes it as like it's a sign of his character, right? And he tells him that Lancelot was actually the first person to ever receive it, right? It was just like a necklace under his tunic, and it was the same with Gawain, right? So they got it before he even did. They just didn't like have capes to wear it on, just wore it under their shirts. But even then, like when he had it, he saw the subtle differences that Arthur, naturally gravitated towards them more, right? He would strategize with Lancelot before Leon or really anyone else, and it was the same with Gawain. Whenever he was drunk, he'd like kind of berate him a little bit, but never failed to include him on important missions. It was subtle, but it was there how he, they would be the first people he'd go to. And then, eventually Leon earned his too. And it wasn't like some, grand like gesture of like, oh, here you are, like like on like some sort of pillow of like, here you are. It was just there one morning on his cape, and he even asked Arthur, like going up to him asking what it meant. And all Arthur did was just nod, saying like, yeah, I have no idea where Merlin keeps getting those from. But it's nice, isn't it? Like, as a clear and just just like drops it, right? As a clear sign of saying like, shut up and just accept it. Like it is what it is, right? And they don't think Merlin doesn't really like know that that's what the dragon class were used for now. Like it implies of like that they all kind of joined the inner circle now, because it's not like that was what it was like to begin with. Why he was doing it in the first place. So now that it's evolved into this, they're pretty sure Merlin doesn't really have any idea. But and that's where like it's not about like any certain deed that he may have done. It's just about his character and who he is as a person. After that, he did a lot of self-reflecting, and he stopped working himself to the bone, and he volunteered for extra watches and patrols that he really didn't have to. Right? Did a lot of self, evaluating. And after an entire year, he finally earned his dragon class, which he wore pretty proudly. And Arthur even did like a double take, but silently acknowledged it, right? Never verbally acknowledged it, but and Merlin was still the same. Kay was almost killed. He earned his in a different way, right? So he was almost killed battling or killing bandits that tried to kidnap his little sister. And so he's like bloody, limp, and being carried on Percival's back to to Gaius. And they're like scolding him, like, you should have waited for us, like, you could have been hurt, like anything, right? And Merlin's like trying to lighten the mood, because that's just kind of how he is. And Kay ends up smiling, right? Because he just kind of finds it funny. He ends up smiling. Perce immediately turns away, right? Because Kay has a certain air about him that makes, everything, people kind of like, oh, something's put a little off put about him, right? And when he smiles, Gawain says it best that you look best when you don't smile, which is all the time. Because he has a very off-putting smile, right? And so now it really doesn't know when it's like he's covered in blood and bruises. So he ends up looking away, and Merlin doesn't even flinch, doesn't care, just smiles right back at him, right? But he does scold him because it's like, you were Arthur's brothers in arms, and he would have absolutely been devastated and blamed himself if you ever died. And, he's like thoroughly scolded by this because he really didn't think how this would affect Arthur and how he would feel. He just, in that moment, was, I gotta, because they were trying to kidnap his little sister. So he wasn't really thinking. But as they're, Merlin and them are sitting there and Merlin wiping off away the blood, he's scolding him, right? How Arthur would be upset that he went and died on this avenging angel crusade. And he responds that he's not an angel, which Merlin then reveals that he knows, says the one that gives away all his gambling winnings to the children on the street. Because he noticed it, right? And he's about to, refuse it, but Gaius comes in. And from then on, he's had, a new found like respect for Merlin, right? He's always liked Merlin since before he really met him because he's always found him amusing and quite funny. And regardless of your station, he's always nice to you unless you give him a reason not to be. Then sassiness comes out. But regardless of that, he's always nice to people, regardless of their station. And the next morning, when he's getting dressed, he finds a new cape, and on top of it, the dragon clasp. Lucan, or Lucan, because it's Lucan, and again, just like with Owen, interchangeable in my mind when I read it. I don't care. So he's probably one of my favorites because he's like a conspiracy theorist. Because he prides himself on being very perceptive. So the fact that he's the last one to fight to figure out that Merlin had magic, low blow, especially since it was like the king's worst kept secret, and then the whole dragon class thing. So he, in the beginning, just like accepted like everyone else. Okay, part of Arthur's inner circle, fantastic, right? But then he overheard a conversation between him and Leon, where Arthur was denying knowing anything about them, and I was like, that was a conversation where Leon had first gotten it, and he was saying, "Oh, I don't know where he's getting it from. It's just whatever, right?" Clearly, just wanting him to just like, I just accept it, stop talking, don't ask questions. So, but him in his mind, he takes that and he comes up with the conspiracy theory that the dragon class were like a symbol, like it's part of secret society that are gonna overthrow the Pendragons when the time is ready. How did he come to that conclusion? Well, one day, as he was walking back to his room, he had overheard Morgana and like a very persistent, who was it, Valiant? It was Valiant, clearly being like a sleazy person, just like very persistent with her. And so he kind of steps in, like, something wrong here. It's like, no, he's just leaving. And so as she kind of clutches the necklace she's wearing, it's gold dragon, right? The dragon clasp. And so he notices that immediately. It's like, do you want me to walk you back? It's like, no, it's fine. And that's where, my maidservant's here, Gwen. And that's where he knows Gwen also has one. It's not gold, obviously. She can't be, seen walking around one. But she has the same one. And so that's how he came up with the idea, because he's like, he doesn't know her well. It's like, and he knows that her and Arthur kind of always sometimes at each other's throats. He's like, oh, is this the moment? It's like, oh, she finally got sick of it, so now she's like planning an uprising. It's like, no, he's like, I don't want to believe, because again, Gawain, Percival, and like Lancelot have the class, so it's like, I don't want to believe they're loyal knights will do this, but if I have to fight them, I will. I'll protect Arthur. And so he's telling a story because he's been like very observant and kind of watching them specifically. And so Gawain, Percival, and Lance are there at a tavern. Gawain gets drunk enough to confess basically all of this. Like, that's what he thinks this is. And they laugh because how did you come to this conclusion of this, right? And he's like, I'll die protecting Arthur. Like, okay. He's like, we'll tell you when you're sober what it is, right? And so he sobers up and he's like embarrassed. But, it's great because he also has a dragon class on, he wakes up, he finds a dragon class. So he wears it, and of course Arthur knows. Why wouldn't they know? Along with Merlin, why wouldn't they know? And he just kind of looks at him, giving it. He doesn't even say anything. Just gives him a knowing look, just like, that's it. Walks away. Like, at least you got from it. And Lucan runs off to to practically beg them, Gawain, Lance, and Percival, to like not tell anyone that he said that. So whenever he's asked, like, oh, how did you get the dragon class? He hates telling his story because he's like, I'm going to be seen as like someone who's paranoid and out of their mind. Bors is a senior knight who has this very kind of rough around the edges kind of thing about him, his personality. And so the one person who can kind of make him go stop, other than probably his sisters, is like Merlin. Because at first He's in denial about it. It's like, no, it's just because he kind of fits right in with my little sisters. He just reminds me of them. And, he also takes care of them sometimes, like when they were sick. But, I mean, like, so did some of the other knights, and he never really went soft on them. So he's kind of forced to face, like, he doesn't really know why. Because the more he got to know Merlin as a person, it just became more clear. Like, he's soft on him, but he doesn't really know why. And then, of course, he's with Gwen at the tavern, and he's like, oh, that's because he's like a small animal, He's so tiny. It's like, yeah, sure, that's why. um, and Bors is there to take Gwen back because technically under orders of Arthur, but Merlin, Merlin suggested it, just like, you should go get Gwen, right? And Gwen expresses how he's surprised that he's still, because he was knighted by Uther. So he thought he would be Uther's knight, like kind of through and through, right? So when he became king, he thought he'd have to fight him, and he hella would if he ever decided he needed to hurt Merlin, because magic or fighting. But Bors is like, no, I've watched Arthur grow into, like, to who he is now, and he's seen the firsthand, like, he's seen how Merlin, the effect he has on Arthur, and how he's changed him, in a good way. So he's not sure. He's always thought like, oh, Merlin has terrible manners, but he's seen like the effect he's had on Arthur. But the next morning, 2 hours before a surprise drill is supposed to start, he finds the clasp neatly on his cape, and of course he's surprised that he got it, but he wears it proudly, just like the other ones do. Galahad is known for being very talkative, right? His nickname is like Gabby Gal, right? Which is supposed to be an insult. He doesn't really take it as an insult. If anything, he takes it as an insult to the women, because like, how do you think they get away with like gossip? It's a very powerful thing, like along with knowledge, knowing things. But so he doesn't really take it as an insult. But he often is. He's a very slick kind of person, right? Able to get information out of someone without them even realizing that they're giving information away. All except from Merlin, right? Morgana, obviously, but Merlin definitely. And it's not because, because Merlin is a terrible liar, but it's just because Merlin is such like a mysterious, like without even trying. It's like he'll say like the most confusing things. It's like, what are you even talking about anymore? It's like, what? And so he likes that about Merlin, right? It's very fun because it's very fun. And I like how by this point too, everyone has acknowledged that whenever Merlin's going out to look for a flower, because it's when he looked at Merlin, and he looked like he was very tired. He's very disheveled. He's like, I was out looking. He didn't have to try to find information from him. He's like, I was out looking for a flower or something. It's like, oh, didn't pry anymore. And by this point, everyone knows if Merlin's out looking for some sort of flower, herb, whatever, it's for some magical whatever reason. Best not. Best to leave it. It's whatever. Like, he'll ask for help. It's fine. But as they're out for a hunt, they get ambushed, right, by bandits, and they have a sorcerer with them. So during the chaos, Merlin gets captured, right? He has a sword at his neck. And this is where Galahad, using himself, he decides to trade places with Merlin, thinking, like, he's like, I'm injured because one of the birds that were summoned by the sorcerer, like, had injured his shoulder. He's like, I'm injured, I can't run very far, and, like, I would know more than, like, a servant would, I'm, and Merlin is, like, trying to, like, refute this because he doesn't want Galahad to, like, go through what is most likely going to happen, which is torture. He's like, no, I just want to be captured. So he tries to refute. He's like, no, I'm, he's about to say his lover, but, Galahad beats him to it. He's like, I'm also Prince's lover. It's like, I'm, which is a lot more enticing than just, like, what they perceive as just, like, a random servant. So, of course, they interchange places. Merlin ends up hugging him, because he desperately doesn't want him to go. And unconsciously, like, Galahad doesn't know what it is. Something changes in him. So clearly, but this is at this point when Merlin had unknowingly casted a spell on Galahad. Cursed him, kind of. It worked though, but in those weeks that he was gone, he was tortured for information, which he was just laughing. He's not going to give it to them. And this is where the spell comes in handy, right? Because subconsciously, Merlin must have known, because of how Galahad is, his tongue would have gotten in trouble, right? Because he loves to talk and it would have gotten him in trouble. So they were going to cut out his tongue. But as they put the dagger to his tongue, it instantly chipped and broke. So they tried to give him a sword. Didn't work. It also broke. Tried to pull out his tongue. Also didn't work. At this point, his tongue is like completely invisible. So like they don't know what to even do with this. Their sorcerer couldn't even really figure out anything. So it's like, just toss him in the pit, leave him to die, right? So he's there and he hears the others running outside, kind of right as he passes out. And as he's like laying in the cot, like, in Caius's room, this is where he's like, I think I made his tongue like invulnerable, which is like specifically only his tongue, clearly. Like nothing, just specifically only his tongue. Just like, I think I made his tongue, which is such a interesting, like I'd be weirded out too. But it's not invulnerable to him though, because later when he goes to his room, when he hobbles himself back to his room, he bites his tongue and he starts bleeding. So like it's clearly okay, yeah, just not to him. But obviously Merlin was like, devastated. He hit him. It's like, why would you do that? Could you, like, take my place and everything? But he'd do it again in a heartbeat. So that, like, as when he was in his room, changing, is when he found the dragon clasp. It was in his pocket, and Merlin had slipped it inside without him knowing. As like a little bonus, though, we do get like the rejects that tried a little too hard. Like some of them had noticed and tried going, Arthur route, like trying to press him, suck up to him, didn't work. Then they noticed Merlin, like, I'll just I'll just suck up to him, giving it, and it wasn't like saw anything like too like, it's just giving him some sweets or giving him some extra compliments, like just paying him extra attention, that type of thing. But Arthur really took notice and was like, I don't like this. Especially if one of them had Merlin cornered in like a shady little alcove, right? And because that's where he was clearly going to talk to him about the dragon clasp. But didn't work out because Arthur had no problem immediately, like, in a way, kind of banishing him. He sent him to the northern, so he sent him and a couple others, because after that, to like the northern borders to patrol, to watch over there. It's like, to watch over what? I don't know. They're like exiled there, basically. And then there's a couple like, oh, you should go the route of threatening Merlin. That also doesn't work. Valiant was one to do it too, because he noticed how he wanted the dragon class because of his own like vanity, not necessarily, because status and what it represented, not necessarily because of like, actually wanting it. But he knows Arthur didn't really like him, so kind of out of luck with that. But then he knows Merlin, and he thought at first just another servant until someone, like, he saw like someone else who was just as arrogant he was about giving Merlin a hard time about to hit him. Arthur like materializes out of nowhere immediately to defend him. So that's where he started looking at different lights, like, oh, I understand now. And he can't really suck up to Merlin because Merlin doesn't like him and makes no move to really even hide it. He doesn't like him. Till word gets around that obviously if he can't have it that way, he's just gonna threaten Merlin. And the way it gets around is like the entire castle works. Everyone in that castle just works to protect Merlin, right? Gets passed around different servants till the first thing gets to Gwen and then Morgana. And she's like, no, don't go after yet, because Gawain, Lancelot, they were all ready to play, alright, let's do this. They were all ready to put him in his place. Like, no. we have to do this right. Arthur has challenged him. It has to be done right. So it's during one of the feasts where they have a plan, and it didn't go quite to what they planned. It accelerated because during one of the feasts, Morgana asks to be like, oh, she wants to leave early, right? Because she feels uncomfortable with the stairs, clearly kind of pointing out Valiant without really saying anything. And Uther's like, okay, yeah, have Merlin escort her. They didn't plan on that, but that works with their plan, right? Because this is like before Arthur and Merlin were even together too. But because Merlin's a servant, so he knows the passages. 10 minutes go by, and Arthur's like, okay, there's so much time, even though it's like the other side of the other side of the castle, but okay, sure. So, and that's where he sees Valiant twisting Merlin's arm and like clearly threatening him. So he throws his gauntlet out and like challenges him. And during the whole, because Morgana saw it, they were scrying, so that's how they saw the entire thing. But she also had the vision where Valiant would use the snakes and try and kill Arthur. So, telling that to Merlin, he immediately does the spell. A little bit wrong, wrong words. So it ends up turning Valiant into a giant snake. But you know what? Works the same way. Because Arthur, Merlin's supposed to rush out there, but Arthur immediately defeats him, right? Cuts off his head. Everything's fine. Arthur was a bit more possessive and protective over him for a few days after that, but it worked out. And then we have like the other side of it where Merlin, like they're perfectly fine. They're watching, them kind of walk back to the castle after saying that to new recruits. They're walking back to the castle. And Merlin's just like, do you think they still like think I don't know about that? Like that we don't know about Dragon Class? Like, it's clearly fine. Just let him have it. But Arthur's like, it works in our favor. Likes her a little bit more, Because at first, Merlin felt bad. And he felt like, I don't mean to exclude anyone, but once they've out unknown, really hard feelings, didn't really matter. And then he kind of goes on to say, it's like, but I am like, because he's a little scared. It's like to reveal my magic, like, how scared I was to reveal my magic to you. And Arthur just looks at him and is like, all right, well, you don't have to worry about that. Everyone knows, because again, it was literally the worst kept secret. Everyone knows but Uther. It's fine. Like, it is the worst kept secret. He's like, how did you win it here? It's like, you're not really subtle. All right. Everyone in the castle knows. That's why everyone kind of works to protect you. It's fine. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye.